Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin Bubble news channel. Together with the University of Edinburgh, we wrote a study and then made an index called the EDI, which stands for Edinburgh Decentralization Index. In that paper and the EDI come up with 8 different ways to look at autonomy. It's been a project for 2 years, and now measures have begun. Which is why if you go to the Edinburgh Decentralization Index page, you can see some of the measurements of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano as they happen right now. With the Chain hard fork, I think Cardano will become the most open cryptocurrency project ever, even more so than Bitcoin, in the next 6 to 12 months. Co-founder of Input Output Global and the Cardano blockchain platform, Charles Hoskinson sees bright futures for ADA, the platform's native cryptocurrency. He thinks that Cardano could become the global voting system for every country, making it even more important than the Bitcoin network. Hoskinson has made other big predictions before. He has predicted that the proof-of-stake blockchain network would make a lot of progress in the past. At the 2023 EVO meeting and in recent talks with the hosts of Altcoin Daily, Hoskinson said again that he thinks ADA could grow faster than Bitcoin in market capitalization. Compared to Cardano, which he said could grow and change, Bitcoin, he said, was a network that didn't move and wasn't very useful. Hoskinson said that Bitcoin was like old platforms like Yahoo and MySpace, saying that they failed because they were too strict and couldn't adapt to new technology. Not only does Hoskinson think that ADA could become the biggest coin in the world by market cap, he also thinks that the Cardano network will be the most decentralized blockchain platform in the world. He talks a lot about how Cardano's system is unique and how it can easily incorporate new technologies. During an interview with Thinking Crypto's Tony Edwards, Hoskinson talked about his big plans for Cardano. He wants it to grow into a multi-trillion-dollar ecosystem that is bigger than the whole cryptocurrency business. The last 2 parts of the Cardano plan are being worked on at the same time. Among them are Basho and Voltaire. Voltaire is needed for some parts of Basho, so Voltaire is all about running things. And the idea of making the biggest and most inclusive on-chain government in all of cryptocurrency was always there. We talked about those things as a community for 2 years. We first wrote to SIP, whose name comes from the author Voltaire's birthday, 1694. Then we told everyone in the community about it. More than 25 workshops were held around the world, and people talked for more than 150 days to come up with a finished design. Now, as a community, we're in the last few steps of setting up the testnet for these governance tools. This is called Sanchonet. That means that Node 9.0, which should be out next week, is pretty much the only option for a fork. What happens in Cardano land is that, after all the talks, the SIP process is carried out. This process takes a long time and many people from different institutions work on it. It's up to the stake pool operators to make the final call about whether to do a hard fork or not. So 70% of them need to install first, and then the hard fork will start. This means we're almost there. That usually takes about a month to happen. But this is a very important hard fork because it not only adds a whole new way to run the project. In this case, there are representatives, a constitutional group, constitutional safeguards, and representation. It also makes a lot of improvements to Plutus. That's Plutus v3, which supports BLS, therefore rollups, zero knowledge, and other cool scalability features are now part of the Cardano community. We've now completed the biggest and most important hard split ever. It's also the most important because it builds a whole on-chain government around the Cardano treasury. There's almost $1 billion worth of value in there, and it all depends on constitutional representation and democratic agreement. So people will sign up D-reps the same way they sign up stake pools. They can then give tasks to those D-reps who can then vote. These D-reps and constitutional committee members pretty much decide what the big governance decisions are, like hard forks, treasury transfers, and changes to protocol parameters. It is the biggest and most important DAO ever made for our business. A lot of people are obviously paying close attention to this one. It's really exciting but also a little scary because there's no going back. It works like a chain reaction. As for what will happen next, you've already set off the chain. But that doesn't bother any of us. Second, Basho is very important, and our community has been taking a multi-pronged approach to scalability. So Hydra is getting close to version 1, and a lot of cool and interesting things will be shown off at Rare Evo for that. And that's kind of how our off-chain state routes work. These are usually very helpful for each of our apps separately. There are also Leos who are good at getting things done. We finally put out the paper that took 6 years to write, which means it took a very long time to get there. Yet, we believe it solves a significant part of the blockchain puzzle and provides the fastest system possible. They call it a 1 minus delta protocol, but you keep the 50% Byzantine resistance and have more decentralization than we do now, which is the best for agreement, which is something we're really proud of. It is now moving on to the prototyping step. Next, there are partner chains, which move very busy apps off the Cardano network and onto their own sidechain, where they can run alongside the system. With Plutus v3 and Midnight's improvements, the zero-knowledge space and recursive space were made possible. It's very colorful, and it's kind of an all-around scalability approach with some optimization and some new features. This includes some old favorites like state channels and rollups, as well as some brand new ones like Orver's Leos, which really change the way the industry looks at things as a whole. Together with the University of Edinburgh, we wrote a study and then made an index called the EDI, which stands for Edinburgh Decentralization Index. In that paper and the EDI come up with 8 different ways to look at autonomy. So you don't just look at decentralization through one lens. You look at it from many angles, such as who runs the consensus nodes, how many full nodes are in the system, who writes the software, how the system's tokens work, and the specifics of where security comes from proof of work or proof of stake. So all of these things can either make things more or less centralized. There are certain facts and situations that make that decision. For that reason, EDI tries to give you a number that clearly shows how much all of these different actions add up to. It's been about 2 years of work, and now they've started taking measures, which is why if you go to the Edinburgh Decentralization Index page, you can see some of the measurements of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano as they happen right now. With the Chang hard fork, I think Cardano will become the most open cryptocurrency project ever, even more so than Bitcoin, in the next 6 to 12 months. People feel like, oh, I don't agree with that. To be honest, I don't care how you feel. This is important to me, facts and measures. The EDI says it's the most open, but you can agree or disagree with that. If you don't agree, it's an open source academic measure made by a university. Then take part in versioning. Versions of EDI are what they're supposed to be, like version 1, later versions, and so on. It tries to be more like the thing it's measuring, which is autonomy as a whole, in each version, in order to say, hey, you have this idea of sufficiently decentralized in your statutory viewpoint. They've already had a lot of talks with regulators such as the FCA, the ADGM in Abu Dhabi, VARA in Dubai, the US Department of Commerce, and others. One last time, maybe we should start talking about it and tracking it. The EDI paper was actually accepted, and it will be sent in. It will be shown at your bank crypto. Additionally, it has already been reviewed by other experts. Lots of great feedback has been given, and it's already being used to talk about whether EDI is a good way to measure things or not. From my point of view, you need to begin somewhere. Since the industry doesn't already have a standard measure of diversity, we had to start from scratch and make that measure work. Next, that index needs to be used in every measure. To do that was one of the planning goals. The methods used in Ouroboros Leo or the on-chain government system aren't just designed to be fast, effective, or efficient. But they are also checking to see if autonomy is kept and protected, since that is so important for the long-term health of these systems. We've been getting in touch with a lot of blockchain projects, by the way. I just talked with people from Algrant and other groups. It's very exciting that these indexes exist because they have the same problem as we do.